everyone, welcome back to the Superhero Show. Daniel and Chris here. Now, this is the last show, I think, before we see Batman v Superman, and probably, because you're watching the show, before you see it. So we're going to discuss our hopes for the film first, and then maybe some of our reservations for the film as well. But
Yep.
let's start with the positive. We're going to see Batman v Superman on the big screen.
Finally.
Awesome.
After 30 years of waiting.
Yeah.
86 is when The Dark Knight Returns came out, which is, I remember friends bringing it into school and us all sort of crowding around. Yeah, totally. I wasn't massively into the dark stuff then, but I had a couple of friends who were into Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and yeah, I remember us all going, wow, look at that, like looking at the pages. And so I've been waiting 30 years to see this fight.
I remember when my friends brought in a dirty mag, looking in that at PE before PE.
Me and my mates were more innocent than that.
That happens as well sometimes.
So, yeah, I hope that fight lasts for at least 30 minutes.
I think with Zack Snyder directing it, I think that's going to be a sizable sequence.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to last.
I hope it's
that's
better.
The second act.
I hope it's better than just him throwing a smoke bomb.
Yeah.
Superman can see through smoke bombs unless they're lead-lined smoke bombs.
Well, I'm at the point that I can kind of see through smoke. I kind of can.
But yeah, I like the idea. I think Snyder's been alluding to the fact that Batman's kind of set up all these traps and it's all prepared
like
to within an inch. Yeah, and I really like the idea of seeing that all come to fruition, to see just how smart and clever and what a chess player he is, and how that all sort of fits together.
Yeah, I'm really excited about seeing Affleck's Batman. That's the thing I'm most intrigued about. I want to see more of him fighting, because my favourite thing in all the trailers so far is that sequence where he takes down that room of guys.
Yeah.
He fights like how I imagine Batman to fight from the comics, and then more recently from how he fights in the Arkham games.
Yeah.
I feel that's how Batman should fight. It's aggressive, and it's like it's just impulsive as well. Like, he's been training for so long, he can assess that room and he just knows how to do it.
Yeah, and high hopes for his Batman. I wasn't a fan of the casting. I was one of those people. I'm still not completely sold. I feel like there's a smugness to Ben Affleck on screen that I find a little bit annoying, and that's why I've enjoyed him more as a director and a writer in recent years than an actor. So, but you know, it's all looked interesting in the trailers, and there's a lot riding on this. They want to set up a new franchise, you know, standalone Batman movies, potentially him directing, and so he really needs to work as that character. And so far, what have we had? We've had 5 Batmans, three good, 2 not so good. I really hope he falls in the former camp.
Yeah, and to jump off that, you say it's about establishing a franchise for Batman. Obviously, the movie is about establishing an entire cinematic universe. And my hope is that the 3 Justice League characters that we get in this movie really click. My hope is they have good chemistry together, because if not, then the future looks a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
I really hope when we see what I assume is the final, the finale of the movie, when all 3 of them are in action together, that just kind of works. I really hope they have good chemistry. There's enough intrigue and the dynamic is complex enough between them in this one movie that I can see the potential of future movies.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk away thinking, I actually don't need to see, I'm not that interested in their characters and how they interact. That's my big hope. I hope that really, because for me that's the core of the movie. The stuff with Doomsday, it would have been awesome to save Doomsday for a big Superman story, maybe. But this movie is all about launching that trinity, more than just the 2 of the title characters. Yeah,
I think my final hope is that Gal Gadot makes a good Wonder Woman as well, because, again, I've been vocal in not really being a fan of her acting in Fast and Furious films. I was excited to see 999 because that's full of actors and she's barely in it, so you can't really tell much from that. But things that I've heard from people who've seen it is that maybe she is the best thing in it.
Right.
It's the breakout character, she's the MVP. So that's got me sort of cautiously optimistic. But again, she's such an important character. This is such an important character for, not just for DC, but for comic book movies in general, to have a really great,
huge cultural icon that's not been depicted on the big screen. Yeah,
so I really hope that I'm proved a little bit wrong when it comes to her, and that they've absolutely nailed Wonder Woman. If that's true what you're saying, it's kind of smart that after Suicide Squad, that's the next movie up, to capitalise on that. Hopefully that's a smart decision. Yeah. Now, should we talk about reservations? Let's talk about fear. Let's talk about why we're frightened.
I think there's a lot in it. Like the fact that, you know, I just said that it's important to establish those three characters, but just it seems like there's an awful lot of juggling going on.
Yeah.
And I guess my biggest reservation about the movie is I feel like, you know, originally this was Man of Steel 2, which, if certain rumours are to believe, when they announced it at Comic-Con, only shortly before the announcement at Comic-Con was decided that they were going to put Batman in it to up kind of the appeal of the movie. And the movie has tried to, like, it's kind of smart in one way that they realised they took on board the reception of Man of Steel and all the destruction at the end, and they worked that into a plot point. And there's a degree with all these movies of flexibility as you're writing. You know, the Marvel movies, while they have a direction they're heading, it's not like it has to be an exact way. Yes, you have to hit this mark and this mark. Whereas Batman v Superman, I wonder whether there was that much indebted to the end of Man of Steel 2 that they couldn't necessarily launch these characters in the freest way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's kind of too many impositions. Like, God, we're gonna have to spend a lot of the film addressing the unpopular ending of Man of Steel, but we have to also hit this beat, this bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I worry that, kind of like Amazing Spider-Man 2, they have to get so much established so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something we've talked about a lot over the course of the production of this film, is how does he do this? So it's, you know, I think it's fair to call it a fear at this point. It's like, it's still, how do you fit all this into a 2.5 hour movie? How does everyone get their moment? How does everyone get established? How does everyone have an arc? Will it just be like fun cameos, nods to the camera with some of these Justice League characters that are going to be dropped in here? So at the moment we just don't know, but it's certainly a challenge for a filmmaker. And it's interesting that the film has spent so much time in post-production. You know, it's put back a year. Yeah. Pretty much.
Loads.
So that could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing.
Other reservations, Eisenberg, there's Lex.
Is Lex Luthor going to be annoying? You can see what they're doing, you can see what Snyder's doing, you can see what Jesse Eisenberg is doing. I don't know if that's the Lex Luthor I want to see. But again, you know, I've got reserved judgment. You're just seeing him sprinkled around the trailer, but I don't know, it looks like it could be a little bit annoying.
Yeah. And then finally, I think my final reservation is dropping Doomsday into this. Mm-hmm. And I think it is probably a narrative necessity, because in this one film, you want to unite these three characters behind a bigger problem. To do that, they've dropped in this huge character, which would have been, I almost feel a bit bad for Superman and Superman fans and Superman film, future Superman films, because we've talked more about, there's been more talk about spin-off Batman movies, but they did say in the original investor call that there would be future standalone Superman movies. It feels a bit of a shame that that's kind of used in this movie. Again, I don't know the specifics, not seen it, but it's like, I felt like it would have been cool to save that for a future standalone Superman movie. Mm-hmm. Well, but they need it.
The death of Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the visuals were a little bit worrying, that it was, you know, the CG, the CG monster that we've seen before in many films, and will it turn the last half hour of the movie into that kind of monster of the week episode that no one really likes from the superhero TV shows, where you've got all this great sort of mythology that you're building and it's really interesting, and then boom, we've got to shove a monster in for them to fight. And in which case it will be just a bit like shrug of the shoulders. Yeah, we've been there, done that. Yeah,
because what we talk about a lot on the show is how recently a lot of superhero movies and TV shows have progressed away from that template. Like the early ones, Incredible Hulk, obvious example, where they're just tearing through Harlem, or even the end of the first Iron Man movie. It feels like some of the more recent and better superhero films have kind of departed from that template, or put a new spin on it, rather than just maximum destruction and loads of CGI.
Yeah, and Man of Steel did it, but at least the villain wasn't a CGI monster that we've seen before. That's really interesting. We didn't actually discuss what we were going to say beforehand, but we had exactly the same hopes and fears. I wrote mine down, you didn't, but it shows we're on the same page.
So, you know, this time next week we'll have seen it. You know, as soon as you see the movie, write in superhero@ign.com and we'll tackle that feedback in a future show.
Exactly. Feedback. I've got an email from Keaton Williams who says, I remember the episode when you guys talked about how serious BVS was going to be and how little jokes it will have. We did do that, didn't we? And we got a bit of a slating for saying that. But now that all the Civil War trailers have dropped, I think that it will definitely be the more serious of the two. What do you guys think? Keaton, I do not agree. I think the stakes are really high in Civil War, and that trailer, that terrific trailer we haven't even talked about, that dropped a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, is obviously very serious. There's some really bad things. But you've still got these really humorous characters within the teams. Not only kind of Downey Jr., as Iron Man, but now Ant-Man's added to the mix. So there's going to be quippy,
Yeah. Well, I think there's a scene that I've seen at a Disney presentation. I don't know if, I think you were away at the time, where it's when they recruit Paul Rudd or Scott Lang, and it's a funny scene.
Yeah.
It's a really, really funny scene, and Hawkeye can be quite dry and wisecracking. It will, and the fact he said underoos right at the end.
Yeah.
The closest the Batman Superman's got is Issue With You, and Batman is not the guy to be like wisecracking. Really, I don't want that from Batman. So I think even though the trailer is kind of geared towards seriousness in Civil War, its Marvel trademark is quite humorous as well. Maybe
someone out there, when they watch the two films, can you do a joke count? Yeah, and we'll see.
Do an infographic.
But my prediction, is Civil War will have more jokes.
Okay, got two bits of feedback here. One is from Jordan Nichols. I know you were trying to fist Aaron Paul # for Iron Fist.
I did. I got in a room with him and tried to fist him, but it didn't work. He was too hungover.
Yeah.
Or jet lagged.
But what about # ride Aaron Paul for Ghost Rider, or # ride Norman Reedus?
Ooh.
Do we want to get behind that?
Literally. Do we want to get behind Aaron Paul or Norman Reedus? I think it needs a bit more time before a new Ghost Rider movie.
Yeah, and also we can't keep unleashing these kind of campaigns on Twitter. You just can't handle it. That sometimes when it crashes, you see a little whale. It's because Fist Aaron Paul took off.
Although I listened to a podcast this week with Mark Neville-Dean being interviewed, who co-wrote the script for Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and he said it's the best script he ever wrote, and they completely mangled it. Hardly used so little of it, even though he gets credit. And he said he was just so sad that they didn't, when it was all going wrong, just give him a call or get in touch, because he said we really loved the character and the work we did on it, and they just completely. Why employ someone, get their vision, get the crank guy's vision, and then don't use it?
People don't care about writers.
No.
Final bit of feedback, and I put this one in because you're right, we didn't talk about Civil War trailer last week because we filmed before the trailer came out. So we've got a bit of feedback about Spider-Man, but then I think we should talk about Spider-Man before the end of the show as well. So this is from Fontaine in London. Great name.
Awesome.
Sony's potential Venom solo film doesn't sound very appealing to me, but Sony or Marvel could make a Spidey multiverse story that could include Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, Silk, Venom, and Miguel O'Hara. If Sony did it, they could focus on other Spider-based heroes, and if Marvel did it, they could link it with time travel and Infinity Stones somehow. I like this final sentence. Admittedly, I haven't completely thought this through. It would be a bit complex. I quite like that. I like... You're right, Fontaine. It would be a bit of complex, but that's something Marvel have done a lot in the comics recently.
Yeah.
They've got lots of Spider characters, and I think it's very easy to do that in comics as a big kind of tie-in event, as Dan Slott did. Very difficult in the movie to get all that up and running. I just want to see a really good Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I think that leads on nicely to the end of the Civil War trailer. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it briefly.
Yeah.
There was some criticism that maybe it looked a little bit too CG, but I think maybe there's a bit of time for it to be finessed a little bit. We like the eyes and the idea that maybe it's the creation of the suits, the creation of Tony Stark.
Yeah, and I found this special feature that's on the Ant-Man Blu-ray, where at the bottom, Scotland's getting interviewed on TV, and on the ticker at the bottom of this news show, it talks about Tony Stark investing in scholarships for underfunded city schools. So I wonder, if he's met Peter Parker through some kind of program, and if you're on a scholarship with Tony Stark and you become a hero or get superpowers, you probably would go ask Iron Man for help. for guidance. So I think it's a pretty safe bet to think he's been a mentor to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I think the costumes, initially it's weird. Like first I thought I didn't really appreciate it, and then the more I saw it, the more I liked it, and the more I thought they've gone back to, it's bright colours. They've gone for Steve Ditko eyes. They've gone for Steve Ditko webbing. It's like they've really embraced the Marvelness of it, and I like that. And I like how he sounds immature.
Yeah,
he sounds young, and it's something they've kind of always bottled in the previous movies. Even with Mark Webb, when they we're going to keep him at school, he never felt like a proper kid. And I think, imagine if they do a storyline where they probably don't do Gwen Stacy, but imagine if his girlfriend dies, and he looks like a kid of 16, 17, and through his actions, he's killed his girlfriend. They've not done something as powerful as that. The Gwen Stacy death scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is affecting, but the ramifications aren't as much.
No, I mean, Sally Field isn't a fan.
No, she hates him. What did she say? She does not care, does she?
No, she used a swear word to describe it.
Yeah, and she compared it to a bit like a turd, didn't she?
Yes. Yeah, agreed. And, I tell you, Tom Holland's worth following on Instagram. He's just a fun kid who is having the best time, and I cannot wait to see what he does as that character.
He likes a backflip.
He does, doesn't he?
He's really good.
No wire work needed for this movie.
No, and I assume it's a brilliant image as well, the way he gets the shield from him.
Yeah.
And
it says so much, it represents something much larger.
Also, I love the line, "Hey everyone." It's almost like, I've been left out of this for quite a long time. And it's kind of an acknowledgement of all those other characters. Yeah, I'm really hopeful for it.
Yeah. And a great email from Fontaine, but I will say, Fontaine, if ever you do get to pitch your idea to any of the studios, to Marvel, don't end your pitch by saying, "I've not thought this through," because
they all think that. They just don't say it.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Next week, we are going to talk... I've just thought we've got two things to talk about that are quite big next week.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a Daredevil spoiler cast, definitely.
Yep.
So make sure you've got through all 13 episodes by that point, because we will have. And let us know what you think. And I guess maybe it'll be the week after we do Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
But as soon as you see Batman v Superman, do let us know what you think, for good or bad.
Yeah, superhero show at IGN.com. Until next week, take care.